feeds on me will have life because of me. This is the bread that came down from heaven. Unlike your ancestors who ate and still died, whoever eats this bread will live forever. The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Early on as a student here at Xavier, I remember hearing quite often that biology is the messiest science. It was typically in a conversation when science majors were comparing each other, the physics majors, the chemistry majors, and the biology majors. I had friends in all three camps. We were divided amongst ourselves, but united against all the humanities majors who didn't have to suffer through 5 hours of labs to get one messy credit hour. I'm not bitter, don't worry. Anyway, we were forever debating who has the harder go of it. And I remember saying it was biology because biology is the messy science. And I was quoting some of the professors. And I can't remember who said it. Perhaps it was Dr. Engel or Dr. Finke or Dr. Hedin or Dr. Meyer. Perhaps it was all of them who said it at one point in varying contexts. But it struck me. Biology is messy. The study of life is messy. Fluids, guts, muscles, sinew, mold, slime, the struggle of birth and death. This stuff gets messy. Flesh and blood. It is seriously messy stuff. And that, my friends, is what we hear about in the gospel and what we celebrate on this feast. We call it Corpus Christi, the body and blood of Christ. And I've had many people write me about the pain and struggle of not being in the community on a feast like today. And it almost seems cruel to give a homily and to stare into this camera, knowing full well that most of the people I'm preaching to right now are trying to avoid the fluids, the spittle, the coughs, the sneezes, the mucus, all the messy stuff that comes along with being flesh and blood. And why are they doing that? They're doing it, frankly, because some of that stuff could kill the most vulnerable among us. And so I'm left with this reflection. It is a mess. The world is a big freaking mess right now. But it always has been. It just seems, perhaps, that we are more in touch with that right now. And so, yes, we can be angry, and we can feel frustrated, we can feel exhausted, we can feel cheated, we can feel lost and confused. We can waffle between saying, you know what, it's not that bad, we're doing well, and then the next day lose our temper and wonder why we just don't feel like ourselves. We can yearn to hug our children, our grandchildren, our friends, and our family, many of whom we only see now via Zoom. We can yearn for justice and feel the loss as it is denied to our black brothers and sisters. We can yearn for clarity and consistency as the rules change each week, as new norms are established and almost as quickly they become obsolete. But we still, no matter what we do, find ourselves hopelessly and continually mired in this mess of flesh and blood. And it's not going away. In a year, it might not be COVID anymore, but it will be something else. And it will still be messy. And that is exactly where Christ meets us. Normally today, I would make all my references about tasting and chewing and gulping. In the Greek, the sort of uncouth words, not the sip and drink, but the taste, chew, gulp, the gritty words. Because that would get us to that incarnational feeling. But the body and blood of Christ that we receive in communion is not the entirety of the mystery of the incarnation. Not by a long shot. Pick a mess, any mess you have in your life, any screwy human situation, God wants to be right in the thick of that. That's the inexhaustible hope and mystery of the incarnation that is at the core of a feast like today. That is the scandal, the ridiculousness, the humiliating intimacy that God desires with creation, with us. I started this homily by talking about biology and how it's the messiest science. But I've begun to think that perhaps there is an even messier study, especially for us as Christians. We have a very incarnational theology, flesh and blood, body and blood. God wants it all. God saves it all. God wants all of us. And we celebrate today the fact that God offers God's very self to us. In all the mess, in all the frustration, in all the pain of separation, God desires and is with us and offers God's self to us in new and messy and confusing and frustrating ways every day. Biology isn't the messiest science. That's theology. It's the study of the entire mess and how God wants to be in it all and offer it all to us. God wants to be in that entire mess. And every time I capture that and catch a glimpse, my reaction is more like, ugh. That's going to be very messy. And God is not bothered one bit. God wants it all. God saves it all. God wants all of us and offers God's very self to us in this mess.